Welcome back to Crime Scene 24/7. To our returning subscribers, thank you for always engaging. Your likes, comments, and shares keeps us motivated. And if this is your first time here, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our chilling crime scenes. Here we dig deep, we investigate hard, and we bring you stories the mainstream left unsaid. So encourage us by engaging in our videos. Subscribe if you haven't, like, comment, and share. In an upscale Connecticut suburb where every lawn is manicured and every streetlight gleams like a promise, the tranquil evening of October 24, 2025 would be shattered. The town is New Canaan, Connecticut, a place known for safety, privilege, and calm. Yet that night at approximately 10:36 p.m., police received a dispatch. Someone was yelling for Mama from the woods off Gertie's Road. Almost simultaneously, from a stone and shingle home valued around $1.9 million, a call to 911 came in, one that would change everything. On the line, 20-year-old Sebastian Van Stockum, and what he said was brief, terrifying. "I just killed my mom." The victim, 55-year-old Laura Williams, mother, antiques business owner, a Georgetown graduate who moved into New Canaan's elegant world and raised a son alone after a marriage that ended. When officers arrived at the home on Gertie's Road, they found Sebastian covered in blood sitting inside the house with his phone still in hand, his clothes soaked, his hands saturated. Outside on the driveway lawn lay Laura Williams, motionless, a hammered revelation. Near her head, a blood-covered hammer, the driveway pool of crimson. The medical examiner would confirm cause of death, blunt injuries to the head, manner of death, homicide. In court days later, prosecutors described it as especially violent, noting extreme trauma to the victim's skull. Meanwhile, Sebastian spoke in fragments to first responders. "I tried using a knife, I tried using a hammer, and I used my fists," he said. "I don't know why I did it." Late October, a quiet neighborhood stunned. Laura Williams' obituary describes her driven, talented, an antiques dealer who previously worked in film and NYC import business, a mother devoted to her only child. And Sebastian, who graduated from New Canaan High School in 2023, described by classmates as socially awkward, having spent time living with his grandmother in Virginia before returning to Connecticut. His father, Dirk Van Stockum, a local restaurateur, sat silently in court, unable or unwilling to speak. The bond set, $2 million for Sebastian, scheduled for a reappearance in early November. Tonight, we begin to unpack not only the who and the what, but the when, the where, and begin to ask how a home of such comfort could conceal this level of horror. And what investigators discovered about the man behind the 911 call stunned even detectives. This is the story of Sebastian Van Stockum and Laura Williams. The night held an eerie stillness as investigators from the New Canaan Police Department and the Connecticut State Police Western District Major Crimes Unit descended on the scene. It was shortly after 10:36 p.m. on Friday, October 24, 2025, that a call came in. First, a desperate voice crying, "Mama," in the woods near South Avenue and Gertie's Road. Then a second call, a calm, chilling admission from 20-year-old Sebastian Van Stockum, telling dispatchers he had ended his mother's life. By the time officers arrived, the mansion on Gertie's Road, valued at approximately $1.9 million, already bore the mark of something agonizingly final. Inside, Sebastian, seated on the floor, his hands soaked in blood, still clutching the phone that rang as the first rescuer arrived. Outside, his mother, Laura Williams, 55, collapsed on the driveway, next to a hammer stained with her blood. The medical examiner would later list her cause of death as blunt injuries to the head, the manner homicide. Investigators moved through the home methodically, overturned furniture, blood spatters on the rear screen door and interior walls. The suggestion, Laura may have attempted to flee before collapsing outside. "I tried using a knife. I tried using a hammer, and I used my fists," Sebastian told police, his voice low and nearly indistinguishable. His statement, "I just killed my mom and I don't know why I did it." As the bond hearing opened on Monday, As dawn broke over the quiet suburban streets of New Canaan, Connecticut, the walls of the home on Gertie's Road began to yield their secrets. Inside the house, once filled with the hum of life, books stacked, art-filled walls, the gentle shuffle of daily routines, investigators found signs of a struggle that cut through the facade of normalcy. Blood smearings on the rear screen door and interior walls told a story of flight and retreat. The victim had tried to escape. A trail led from within, through the house, past an open door and into the driveway where she collapsed. In the hospital of uniforms and evidence bags, the first responders described arriving to a scene unlike any typical domestic call. The young man, 20-year-old Sebastian Van Stockum, was clad in blood-soaked clothing, his hands saturated, the phone still in his grip, an echo of the 911 call he had placed moments earlier. He murmured, "I took my mom's life," then went on to confess the weapons he used: the hammer, the knife, his fists. In the days that followed, the investigation widened. Detectives from the Connecticut State Police Western District Major Crimes Unit joined the local force, combing through digital footprints, behavioral history, and psychological shadows. They interviewed neighbors who recalled nothing overt: no screaming, no odd traffic, no call for help, until the woods near South Avenue echoed a solitary voice, a man screaming, "Mama." The prosecution's file describes the homicide as especially violent, noting extreme trauma to the skull of the victim, 55-year-old Laura Williams. Her life story within the antiques trade, her single mother devotion to Sebastian, both now drawn into this night of horror. Court records reveal Sebastian, who worked as a former forensic student, remained matter-of-fact in his demeanor, until he broke down in transport, telling officers afterwards, "I deserve to be forgotten." According to reports, he said he was a problem ever since I was born. Flower bouquets now sit on the porch of the house, a silent vigil in a neighborhood unaccustomed to such violence. Friends of the victim describe a warm, ambitious mother whose life revolved around her child. Classmates of Sebastian recalled a socially awkward young man, bright, withdrawn, unremarkable, and now the subject of one of New Canaan's darkest chapters. The next court date looms, November 3rd, 2025. The bond is set at $2 million. The community is left to wrestle with the question hanging over every silent street and manicured yard. How could a home of comfort become the scene of such devastation? And as the investigators piece together the hours before that call to 911, what they uncover about the last moves of mother and son may yet reshuffle our understanding of the tragedy. The long corridor of the house on Gertie's Road revealed more than just signs of a violent struggle. It offered fragments of a young life teetering on the edge. Inside the residence, once filled with the quiet routines of a mother and her son, detectives found books still open, a laptop on the kitchen table, and a half-finished dinner dish in the dining room. These domestic traces contrasted sharply with the chaos: overturned chairs, blood-splattered screen doors, and a hammer lying nearby after the victim collapsed outdoors. Family members described tension, though no external alarms had been raised. The victim's brother, David Williams, told investigators that while his sister, Laura Williams, supported him in everything, she had argued with her son, 20-year-old Sebastian Van Stockum, about what his next steps should be in life. At his arraignment in Stamford Superior Court on Monday, October 27, 2025, Sebastian appeared in a white Tyvek suit, his demeanor calm yet distant. Prosecutors painted the scene: extreme trauma to the skull of Laura Williams, whom they identified as the victim, and the accused charged with her murder. The court records show the arrest followed a 911 call placed by Sebastian himself just after 10:36 p.m. on Friday, October 24th. Despite the gravity of the crime, the local law enforcement, New Canaan Police Department, was unusually silent. Lieutenant Mark J. DeFelice stated the department would release no further information, citing the domestic violence nature of the case. A few days after the tragedy, the quiet streets of what is typically the safest enclave in Connecticut saw flowers laid on the porch of the Williams Van Stockum home. Neighbors rode bikes past, children played in the driveways, and yet a profound hush hung just beneath the leafy suburban calm. The community, accustomed to stability and privilege, found itself grappling with a question it had never confronted before. How does a son who once walked the halls of his home, graduating high school in 2023, become the accused in such an unspeakable act? And as the investigation deepens, the forensic team continues to sift through digital records, bedrooms, and memory care notebooks, all in search of the missing link between childhood and carnage, between mother's hopes and son's confession. The next court appearance looms, and the public waits for answers. The detectives assigned to the case turned their lenses toward the silent patterns of the home and the young man who called the police. In the hours following the arrest of 20-year-old Sebastian Van Stockum, investigators from both the New Canaan Police Department and the Connecticut State Police Western District Major Crimes Unit began methodically piecing together the timeline, retracing Sebastian's movements in the days leading up to Friday night, October 24, 2025. Friends and acquaintances of Laura Williams described her in the days before the killing as particularly consumed by work, supplying high-end antiques from her New Canaan residence, corresponding with clients, and preparing shipments. Her brother David Williams told reporters that Laura argued with Sebastian about what he should be doing in his life, though she supported him in everything. At the same time, records show Sebastian had recently completed high school in 2023 at New Canaan High School and had entered college-like coursework in forensic science. However, his attendance had been sporadic, and no documented training path emerged from the file. Classmates recalled him as socially reserved, often isolated, and described by the family as having lived for a time with his maternal grandmother in Virginia. Yet the move didn't work out. The police file revealed the home on Gerdes Road had been locked from the inside Sunday morning and appeared thereafter untouched until Sebastian's 911 call that night. Detectives found the rear screen door ajar, suggesting the victim attempted to flee, and interior walls coated with bloody handprints and drag marks. A large pool of blood sat in the driveway beside a blood-covered hammer. Sebastian admitted on the scene, "I tried using a knife, I tried using a hammer, and I used my fists." Law enforcement obtained digital imaging from the residence's smart home system. The footage, though grainy, captured Sebastian pacing the living room at approximately 9:18 p.m., removing gloves, and later opening the back screen door at 9:46 p.m. The forensic timeline suggests the attack occurred within a 15-minute window. Investigators scheduled a review of Sebastian's phone records and online activity for the 2 days prior. In court on October 27, 2025, prosecutors under the direction of State's Attorney Paul Forensek laid out the forensic evidence. Extreme cranial trauma to Laura Williams, her skull fractured, brain swelling noted, blunt force injuries consistent with multiple weapons. Forensics testified the hammer bore mixed DNA, the victim's, Sebastian's, and unidentified trace material. The defense attorney, Philip Russell, reiterated that his client, though charged with murder, was entitled to the presumption of innocence and that the investigation had many loose ends. Neighbors later reported hearing absolutely nothing unusual in the home in the hours leading up to the fatal call. The neighborhood remained quiet, the family routines intact, the exterior lights unmoved. Only the sidewalk memorial, flowers by the front door of the Gerdes Road home, broke the stillness. Investigators continue to follow emerging leads. Social media chats, a recent and now erased entry on Sebastian's profile about feeling lost, and financial records showing a withdrawal made by Laura the morning of October 24th for an unspecified purpose. As the case advances toward the next hearing scheduled for November 3, 2025, the community's question remains: how did a 55-year-old mother and her 20-year-old son arrive at a moment that would end in confession, horror, and loss? The answer lies buried in the hours, the quiet spaces, and the thin lines between care and conflict. The investigation into the tragedy on Gerdes Road moved quickly into the realm of digital forensics and psychological review. Detectives obtained Sebastian Van Stockum's cell phone and discovered that mere hours before the fatal incident, he had researched local emergency dispatch codes and typed troubling phrases into search fields. "Hate myself," "How to stop thinking," Where to go when nothing helps. The data tag timestamps placed some of the searches as late as 8:42 p.m. on Friday, October 24th. At the same time, Laura Williams's antique business ledger revealed a withdrawal of nearly $12,000 in cash the afternoon of the same day, an amount not typical of her usual dealings, according to colleagues in New Canaan. One associate described that she had been preparing for an unusual consignment, though the recipient and pieces involved remain unidentified. Investigators have not ruled out that the withdrawal may be linked to the motive behind the attack. In parallel, mental health records uncovered by the defense showed that Van Stockum had been voluntarily seen at a Virginia clinic for depressive symptoms in the summer of 2024, after a year of residential stay with his maternal grandmother. Those records describe irritability, sleep disruption, and withdrawal, though no formal diagnosis or treatment plan is recorded. The records were served to prosecutors under a sealed motion, and while they do not excuse the act, they raise questions about the young man's state of mind. The crime scene team reported that the interior of the Williams Van Stockum residence bore evidence not just of a rapid collapse, but of a defensive escape. A rear screen door was found slightly ajar with a dark-colored glove lying on its threshold. Furniture was overturned in the living room and kitchen, and a trail of blood spatters led from the home's rear toward the driveway. These observations contributed to the medical examiner's conclusion that Williams attempted flight before collapsing outside. As the community of New Canaan absorbed the shock, the prosecution prepared exhibits for the upcoming November 3rd hearing. Among them, the 911 call recording in which Van Stockum calmly told dispatchers, "I just killed my mom," followed by moments of weeping and the statement, "I don't know why I did it." Also submitted is the arresting officer's body camera footage, showing the young man sitting in the hallway of his home, his hands limp beside him, his face smeared with blood. Neighbors, meanwhile, described a poignant contrast to the scenes unfolding. The home appeared from the outside, completely unremarkable just hours before the incident. Lights on, vehicles in the driveway, the mother's car at work. But by 10:36 p.m., when officers were called, it had become a tableau of anguish. In one interview, a neighbor recalled hearing the woods behind the home, the same woods where a voice yelling, "Mama," had drawn first responders, echoing for minutes before silence. With no public statement forthcoming from the family and the investigation still in full swing, one question looms. What combination of factors could lead a 20-year-old raised in that home to this moment of confession and violence? The answer, authorities believe, will lie in the convergence of financial anomalies, digital despair, and the final hours of that ordinary October evening. The examination of digital footprints and personal history grew more detailed as investigators sifted through the weeks and months leading to October 24, 2025. Court documents reveal that in the months prior, 20-year-old Sebastian Van Stockum's family noted increasing withdrawal and instability, changes in sleep patterns, refusal to engage socially, and a growing sense of despair that the young man himself voiced in fragments. In interviews with probation officials, he reportedly said he was a problem ever since I was born. Furthermore, the victim's side records depict Laura Williams's tireless drive. The 55-year-old antiques dealer was found to have worked almost continuously in the days before the attack, executing shipments, meeting with high-end clients, and overseeing her inventory. Her brother described her as driven and smart, someone who supported her son intellectually and emotionally while simultaneously managing a thriving business from her home in the affluent New Canaan community. Investigators discovered that during the evening of October 24th, Sebastian's mobile device history revealed web search terms like, "Why can't I stop thinking?" "Worthless," and "How to forgive myself." The timestamps placed these searches in the hours before the call to 911, raising a haunting question of what prompted the moment he chose to act. At the home on Gerdes Road, police found a back screen door forced open, blood smears along interior walls and rear exits, and an unmistakable trail of distress leading from inside the home to the driveway where the victim was found. In the courtroom for his arraignment on October 27, 2025, Van Stockum remained composed as prosecutors laid out the evidence. The hammer found beside the victim, the extensive forensic work showing the trajectory of the assault, and the strong probable cause that led to his charge of murder. The judge set his bond at $2 million, reflecting the severity of the crime and the community's shock. For the residents of New Canaan, the incident tore open the illusion of safety. On quiet suburban streets where hedgerows and elitist calm define the backdrop, the violent act has left a void. The perfume of newly planted flowers now seems out of place against the stern reality of what occurred in that home. And yet the investigation continues, tracking every nuance of behavior, digital decline, and familial strain. The question now shifts from what happened to what led here, and whether a life once bright and promising and a mother's devoted care could vanish into that single moment of irreversible violence. In the weeks that followed the arrest, the case of State of Connecticut versus Sebastian Van Stockum took on a life of its own. What had begun as a late-night 911 call from a quiet mansion on Gertie's Road now rippled through every corner of New Canaan. Each new detail pushed the community to confront the reality that even in one of the wealthiest and safest towns in the state, the veneer of perfection could conceal unimaginable pain. Detectives continued to reconstruct the young man's mindset in the days leading to the killing. From phone records, they traced a pattern of erratic communication, short, unfinished text messages to friends, and unanswered calls to relatives. His social media accounts were sparse, but investigators noted a deleted post recovered from cloud storage that read simply, "I can't be who she wants me to be." The timestamp placed it less than 24 hours before the attack. Meanwhile, Laura Williams's friends gathered to celebrate her life in a quiet service held at Hoyt Cognetta Funeral Home in Norwalk. Tributes painted a picture of a compassionate, fiercely intelligent woman who had worked in both the antiques and film industries, admired for her taste, wit, and generosity. Her brother, David Williams, spoke through tears. Laura believed her son would find his way. She never stopped believing that. As the legal process moved forward, the Connecticut State Police Western District Major Crimes Unit continued its forensic reconstruction, submitting blood spatter analysis, psychological evaluations, and toxicology reports. No drugs or alcohol were detected in Sebastian's system the night of the incident. What remained was a portrait of mental and emotional decline that no one had recognized in time. By mid-November 2025, prosecutors filed a formal motion to transfer the case to the Stamford Judicial District's major crime docket. The court ordered continued mental health evaluations at the Bridgeport Correctional Center, where Van Stockum remains held on a $2 million bond. The next status conference is scheduled for December 2025. For New Canaan, the once idyllic neighborhood of tree-lined streets and manicured lawns now bears a permanent scar. The home on Gertie's Road sits dark most nights, its driveway still faintly stained where police chalk once outlined a life lost. Neighbors say they still hear echoes of that October night when the call went out, when a young man's voice cracked over the phone as he confessed, "I just killed my mom." And as this case winds through the courts, it stands as a haunting reminder that pain can live quietly, even in the most beautiful of places. If you've been following this story and others like it, don't forget to subscribe to Crime Scene 24/7, where we uncover the truth behind the tragedies that shake our communities, giving voice to the victims and shedding light on the darkness that too often hides in plain sight.